I was told to deliver this message. You think you're invincible because you got money, bombs, guns, and planes, killing babies, innocent people. I think you're insane. Chaos and destruction is the name of your game. Somebody's got to stop you before the whole world goes up in flames. So he told me to tell you, I'll fight
for my brothers. We can go to war. Fighting for my father, I will give my life for. I feel so alone in this white man's world. Whip it in the kitchen, watch that white turn pearl. Standing on the corner, standing on my phone. Standing with my gangsters, but I'm standing on my own. If you said to me his own, split you like you did alone. Sacrifice my life, understanding each his own. Toast to the keys of success. Bel Air rose on my breath. I've been a student since '03, and we can fight till we see peace.
I fight like that. 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 I fight like that.
Let me holler at you for a minute, give you game. Real scrappy, love the bottom, Buddha bang. Trigger happy, and everybody in the game. You shot your family and didn't even know it, man. Same rules, same code, with a different slang. Struck him out, and now they took him out the picture frame. Mama, don't cry, we gon' get by. 2 weeks later, got killed in a drive. Go why? Must we fight amongst each other? Reach one, each one, teach one, my brother. I teach them how to fight on the grass and in the class. Snoop Dogg, all stars, yes sir, they coming fast. D1, football, we won. Now proud of my son, Lil Snoop, yes sir, cause he won. Right on, SC, fight on. We 100, keep it coming, dip, slip, slide on, light on.
I fight like that. 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 I fight like that.
Watching the warriors, the story of the rebels. You from the ghetto, then you know never to settle. I'm shooting common on the streets, I'm a pharaoh. Battling in African-American apparel. This on a t-shirt, youngins doing street work. Grinding till they teeth hurt, that's because they need work. Working till the feet hurt, trying to get my soul right. Used to be on old bikes, serving them that cold white. Wars in the winters, the block is hot in summers. Today's mathematics, we know it's strength in numbers. To the bosses and the runners, the hustlers and the stunners. We fight for the hundreds, we fight for the oneness.
He fights with the heat. He fights with the sleet. He said, I am who I am. I can't be beat. Nobody has won a war against me. I fight like that. 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 I fight. All of the nations of the earth as we speak are angry. They're angry because governments cannot suffice the needs of their people. They're angry because a few have gotten wealthy at the expense of the many. And the poor and the sick and the weak and the unlearned multiply. And the value of their lives are diminished by the rich and the powerful. So that when human life is devalued, that in the eyes of man you are unworthy of the gift of life, then it is easy for another human being to take the life of another human being that he or she has devalued. Black life in America is devalued. Hispanic life is devalued. Even poor white life is devalued. There's a way that I have to behave. I'm free, but I'm not free to rob you of yours. I'm not free to take from you what does not belong to me. So if I will construct my life according to these righteous principles, then between man and man, man and woman, peace. Between race and race, peace. Between rich and poor, peace. We have our beautiful Mexican family. This once was theirs. So you can't say to them they are aliens. That's a horrible word to use for former owners. I see my indigenous family here. Many tribes, but they're really one great nation of people that now must be reunited with themselves. So it's their time now, as well as ours, that God would intervene in our affairs and bring the bottom rail to the top. The government is not rehabilitating soldiers. When they send you away to kill. When you come home, they gotta reconstitute you for civilian life again. Make sure you have a job so you can take care of your family, but they're not doing it. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad says, a woman can do anything that a man does, and the only thing he forbids the woman to do is the thing that degrades her. So how high can you go? High as you want to. Why would God allow the female to wear his attributes if you can't be a manifestation of that attribute? Women, you got to be set free. What God has put within you must be cultivated, must be developed, and must be used for the advancement of a nation and a world. I said to myself, Mr. President, why the hell don't you go to the wicked police department? Why the hell don't you stand up and tell them that your killing of black youth and brown youth is not gonna hold no more? Why don't you stand up? God's world is in need of a truth that will set up a government where everybody can live in peace, under real freedom, real justice, and real equality.
We must also realize that the problems of racial injustice and economic injustice cannot be solved without a radical redistribution of political and economic power.
We read one day, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But if a man doesn't have a job or an income, he has neither life nor liberty and the possibility for the pursuit of happiness. He merely exists. Estimated that we spend $322,000 for each enemy we kill in Vietnam, while we spend in the so-called war on poverty in America only about $53 for each person classified as poor. The promises of the Great Society have been shot down on the battlefield of Vietnam, making the poor, white and Negro, bear the heaviest burdens both at the front and at home. The other thing I want you to understand is this, that it didn't cost the nation 1 penny to integrate lunch counters. It didn't cost the nation 1 penny to guarantee the right to vote. But now we are dealing with issues that cannot be solved without the nation spending billions of dollars and undergoing a radical redistribution of economic power. Yes, yes. All labor has dignity. Yes. But you're doing another thing. You are reminding not only Memphis, but you are reminding the nation that it is a crime for people to live in this rich nation and receive starvation wages. America's opportunity to help bridge the gulf between the haves and the have-nots. And the question is whether America will do it. There's nothing new about poverty. What is new is that we now have the techniques and the resources to get rid of poverty. And the real question is whether we have the will. At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farms. Not only that, today, many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. And this is what we are faced with, and this is a reality. Now, when we come to Washington in this campaign, we are coming to get our check. And I come here tonight and plead with you. Believe in yourself and believe that you're somebody. As I said to a group last night, nobody else can do this for us. No document can do this for us. No Lincolnian emancipation Proclamation can do this for us. No Kennethonian or Johnsonian civil rights bill can do this for us. If the Negro is to be free, he must move down into the inner resources of his own soul and sign with a pen and ink of self-assertive manhood his own Emancipation Proclamation. Don't let anybody take your manhood. Be proud of our heritage. As somebody said earlier tonight, we don't have anything to be ashamed of. Somebody told a lie one day. They couched it in language. They made everything black, ugly, and evil. Look in your dictionary and see the synonyms of the word black. It's always something degrading and low and sinister. Look at the word white. It's always something pure, high, and clean. But I want to get the language right tonight. I want to get the language so right that everybody here will cry out, yes, I'm black, I'm proud of it, I'm black and beautiful.
What is the relationship between this and the reality of the Negro masses?
Well, to leave Martin out of it for a moment, Martin's very rare, very great man. Martin's rare for two reasons, partly because just because he is, and because he's a real Christian, and he really believes in nonviolence. He's arrived at something in himself, which permits him, allows him to do it. And he still has great moral authority in the South. There's none whatever in the North. Poor Martin has gone through God knows what kind of hell to awaken the American conscience. But Martin has reached the end of his rope. There's some things Martin can't do. Martin's only one man. Martin can't solve the nation's central problem by himself. There are lots of people, lots of black people, I mean now, who don't go to church no more and don't listen to Martin, and who anyway are themselves produced by civilization, which has always glorified violence, unless the Negro had the gun. So that Martin is undercut by the performance of the country. The country is only concerned about nonviolence if it seems that I'm going to get violent. But I'm worried about nonviolence if it's some Alabama sheriff.
Jim, what do you see deep in the recesses of your own mind as the future of our nation? And I ask that question in that way because I think that the future of the Negro and the future of the nation are linked.
They're indissoluble.
Yeah. Now, what do you see? Are you essentially optimistic or pessimistic? And I really don't want to put words in your mouth because what I really want to find out is what you really believe.
Well, I'm both glad and sorry you asked me that question. I'll do my best to answer it. I can't be a pessimist because I'm alive. To be a pessimist means that you have agreed that human life is an academic matter. So I'm forced to be an optimist. I'm forced to believe that we can survive whatever we must survive. But the Negro in this country, the future of the Negro in this country is precisely as bright or as dark as the future of the country. It is entirely up to the American people and our representatives. It is entirely up to the American people whether or not they're going to face and deal with and embrace this stranger whom they maligned so long. What white people have to do is try to find out in their own hearts why it was necessary to have a nigger in the first place. Because I'm not a nigger. I'm a man. But if you think I'm a nigger, it means you need it. The question you got to ask yourself, the white population of this country has got to ask itself, North and South, because it's one country, and for a Negro, there's no difference in the North and the South. There's just a difference in the way they castrate you. But the fact of the castration is the American fact. If I'm not the nigger here, and you invented him, you the white people invented him, then you got to find out why.
Well,
And the future of the country depends on that, whether or not it's able to ask that question.
as a Negro and as an American, I can only hope that America has the strength and the capacity,
The moral strength,
to ask and answer that question in affirmative and constructive ways.
To face that question.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ken.
O.J. Simpson was charged with murder. And in a court of law with a jury of his peers, he was set free. A lot of folk didn't like that, so they sued him. And he lost in court because even though he was not convicted of murder, they said he's responsible. White folk are rich and powerful, the rich and powerful, because black folk worked for 310 years as chattel slaves and got not one day's pay. I could call out the rich and the powerful whose riches have been gotten on our backs, but I'll save that for another time. The point is, the present generation of whites did not do this. But the present generation of whites are in their privileged position because of what a former generation of whites have done. Now the question is, a black agenda should be put before them, because if they don't accept the responsibility to clean up this problem, you don't have a lot of time to wait 40 more years for a benevolent white president or a benevolent black president. That day is over. America is facing the judgment of God as we sit around this table. Look at the weather. Look at the world turning down on her. America is bankrupt. $13 trillion in debt. And if you figure Medicare and Medicaid, she's over $60 trillion in debt. She can never pay it. That's why she voted for $650 billion in armament, because she can't pay the debt. But she can bully those whom she is in debt to with fear over her military prowess. I'm here to tell you she's losing there too. Now I close. Our people need repair. Yes. We need repair from 310 years of chattel slavery, where black men were forced to be studs, to make black women pregnant, to make more slaves for the slave master. And that same unhealthy attitude of misusing our women and making babies that we have no desire to take care of is still with us. Willie Lynch, who gave the ways that we could keep being divided so that they could rule us for 1,000 years. That sickness is still with us. O.J. Simpson was charged.
Greetings, gentlemen. I greet you here on the bank of the James River, in the year of our Lord 1712. First, I shall thank you, the gentlemen of the colony of Virginia, for bringing me here. I am here to help you solve some of your problems with slaves. Your invitation reached me on my modest plantation in the West Indies, where I have experimented with some of the newest and still the oldest methods for control of slaves. Ancient Rome would envy us if my program is implemented. As our boat sailed south on the James River, named for our illustrious king whose version of the Bible we cherish, I saw enough to know that your problem is not unique. While Rome used cords of wood as crosses for standing human bodies along its highways in great numbers, you are here using the tree and the rope on occasions. I caught the whiff of a dead slave hanging from a tree a couple miles back. You are not only losing valuable stock by hangings, you are having uprisings. Slaves are running away. Your crops are sometimes left in the field too long for maximum profit. You suffer occasional fires. Your animals are killed. Gentlemen, you know what your problems are. I do not need to elaborate. I am not here to enumerate your problems. I am here to introduce you to a method of solving them. In my bag here, I have a foolproof method for controlling your black slaves. I guarantee every one of you that if installed correctly, it will control the slaves for at least 300 years. My method is simple. Any member of your family or your overseer can use it. I have outlined a number of differences among the slaves, and I take these differences and make them bigger. I use fear, distrust, and envy for control purposes. These methods have worked on my modest plantation in the West Indies, and it will work throughout the South. Take this simple little list of differences and think about them. On top of my list is age, but it's there only because it starts with an A. The second is color or shade. There is intelligence, size, sex, size of plantations, status on plantations, attitude of owners, whether the slaves live in the valley, on a hill, east, west, north, south, have fine hair, coarse hair, or is tall or short. Now that you have a list of differences, I shall give you an outline of action, but before that, I shall assure you that distrust is stronger than trust, and envy stronger than adulation, respect, or admiration. The black slaves, after receiving this indoctrination, shall carry on and will become self-refueling and self-generating for hundreds of years, maybe thousands. Don't forget, you must pitch the old black male versus the young black male, and the young black male against the old black male. You must use the dark-skinned slaves versus the light-skinned slaves, and the light-skinned slaves versus the dark-skinned slaves. You must use the female versus the male, and the male versus the female. You must also have white servants and overseers who distrust all blacks. But it is necessary that your slaves trust and depend on us. They must love, respect, and trust only us. Gentlemen, these kits are your keys to control. Use them. Have your wives and children use them. Never miss an opportunity. If used intensely for 1 year, the slaves themselves will remain perpetually distrustful. Thank you, gentlemen.
Dr. Abernathy, our distinguished Vice President, fellow delegates to this, the 10th annual session of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, my brothers and sisters from not only all over the South, but from all over the United States of America. 10 years ago, during the piercing chill of a January day and on the heels of the year-long Montgomery bus boycott, a group of approximately 100 Negro leaders from across the South assembled in this church and agreed on the need for an organization to be formed that could serve as a channel through which local protest organizations in the South could coordinate their protest activities. It was this meeting that gave birth to the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. When our organization was formed 10 years ago, racial segregation was still a structured part of the architecture of Southern society. Negroes with the pangs of hunger and the anguish of thirst were denied access to the average lunch counter. The downtown restaurants were still off limits for the black man. Negroes burdened with the fatigue of travel were still barred from the motels of the highways and the hotels of the cities. Negro boys and girls in dire need of recreational activities were not allowed to inhale the fresh air of the big city parks. Negroes in desperate need of allowing their mental buckets to sink deep into the wells of knowledge were confronted with a firm no when they sought to use the city libraries. 10 years ago, legislative halls of the South were still ringing loud with such words as interposition and nullification. All types of conniving methods were still being used to keep the Negro from becoming a registered voter. A decade ago, not a single Negro entered the legislative chambers of the South except as a porter or chauffeur. 10 years ago, all too many Negroes were still harried by day and haunted by night by a corroding sense of fear and a nagging sense of nobodiness. But things are different now. In assault after assault, we cause the sagging walls of segregation to come tumbling down. During this era, the entire edifice of segregation was profoundly shaken. This is an accomplishment whose consequences are deeply felt by every Southern Negro in his daily life. It is no longer possible to count the number of public establishments that are open to Negroes. 10 years ago, Negroes seemed almost invisible to the larger society. and the facts of their harsh lives were unknown to the majority of the nation. But today, civil rights is a dominating issue in every state, crowding the pages of the press and the daily conversation of white Americans. In this decade of change, the Negro stood up and confronted his oppressor. He faced the bullies and the guns, the dogs and the tear gas. He put himself squarely before the vicious mobs and moved with strength and dignity toward them and decisively defeated them. The courage with which he confronted enraged mobs dissolved the stereotype of the grinning, submissive Uncle Tom. He came out of his struggle integrated only slightly in the external society, but powerfully integrated within. Dr. Abernathy
On CNN, I was questioned after I spoke in 2007 about Barack Obama. And CNN said, well, what do you think about this young man? I said, I think he's brilliant. I think he has fresh ideas. But I'm under no illusion that even if he did become president, that he could change the reality of black suffering in America, because when you are running for something, you can say a lot of things, but when you sit in the seat and you feel the energy of electricity putting something on your backside, the forces that surround power is always the real power. President Obama does not run this country. President Obama has been chosen to govern white affairs. And if in that process we get something, it won't be because the governing powers want it. It will be because we organized and forced a government to speak to our needs. Now, look, thank you for the question. You know, I want it clearly said in love that I love my brother. I voted for him. At 5 o'clock in the morning, I was out there with my wife voting for our brother. I, like you, am very proud that a black man sits in the White House. But I also understand very clearly, and we should understand that it is the White House. And until we exercise power to force that house to address our agenda. Now remember, our dear sister Julianne Malvo mentioned A. Philip Randolph. Man, that was a long time ago. And the cry was jobs and justice. In the March on Washington in 1963, the cry was jobs and justice. In the 20-year anniversary of the March on Washington, the cry was jobs and justice. We are now in 2010. And what is the cry? Jobs and justice. Well, wait a minute. How long are you going to sit around begging white people to do for us what we have the power to do for ourselves? Excuse me. I'm quite passionate, so you all set me off. You know that. And I love it. But listen, an agenda is a program, a schedule, a timetable, a plan, a list, a scheme to accomplish a certain result. We have come up with black agendas, but we've been looking to the wrong people to fulfill our agenda. If Franklin Delano Roosevelt said to A. Philip Randolph, yeah, everything you told me is right. The Negroes need this, the Negroes are suffering that. Now you go out and make me do it. Do you think that having a black face in the White House means that we don't have to make him do it?
That's right.
That's right. Who surrounds him? Let me even go up a bit further. I just...
It's all right.
Look. Our brother is brilliant. He got a good heart. I think he really loves America and wants to make America better. He wanted to ease the pain between America and the Muslim world. He wants to solve the problem of Israel and the Palestinians. He has the heart to want to make America better. But he's like that camel in the Quran that God warned the people, don't hamstring his camel. They didn't care what God wanted. They hamstrung the camel. Every one of our brothers and sisters that spoke today, we have a right to expect something from our brother. 97% of our people voted for him. Yes, there's trouble asset relief program, but there's no. There is still racist America between the money being sent down and it coming to those who need it most. If he does not use his bully pulpit to address that, we can fault him for that. But wait a minute. In love.
Everybody say it.
In love.
Say it again. One more again.
Okay, I want to deal with that word because love is bigger than some emotional feeling. The word love, you can change the vowel O to I and the consonant V to F. When you have love, real love, you have life. And that's why the scripture says we can tell that we have passed from death into life because we love the brotherhood. Okay? Now, I was with Elijah Muhammad one day, my teacher, and he said to me, "Brother, you're always talking about love. Define it for me." And I went into my Webster's emotional dictionary stuff. And he said, "Brother, where there is freedom, where there is justice, where there is equality, there is love and there is life." Our problem is we have been looking to the wrong source to give us freedom, justice, equality, love, and life.
Ready for Revolution. Welcome to Classes in Session. I hope our toes, our hearts, our minds, and our direction remain intact. We chose this approach this morning because it's about repair. At the end of the day, how do we make our existence, I'm talking about humanity, how do we make our existence relevant to the will of the Creator? Okay, so let's look at it just a little bit, very little, because the hour is late. This didn't require a lot of dialogue from me. This required more of absorption from all that were a part of it and witnessed it. I encourage you to continue to share it. Thank you so much for the honor of lending us your ears and your eyes. But James Baldwin, in his portion, he spoke about the intricate and inseparable tie that whites, white America, blacks, black America have. Our plight is inseparable because of how we were brought, because of how we were raised, because of the mindset that was inculcated. Remember, the education of this world is an outgrowth through the slave mechanism that was incorporated. So think about it. Where Willie Lynch, the system of Willie Lynch created distrust, despair, discord, disunity. Those same principles were orchestrated by the rich and hamstrung an entire planet, folks. America has been under civil war since the Civil War. And if you don't believe it, I'm going to show you signs. I want you to go back as far as you can and look at the period every month, April between the first 2 weeks. I'm sorry. Look at the period between April 10th through the 16th, and look at the week before and the week after. And you will see civil unrest all the way through. Ruby Ridge, Oklahoma City bombing, the Unabomber. I mean, you look at all the things that happen year to year. Railroad derailments. Remember Washington? when they were going around the curb and toppled over. Think about Washington State. Think about what you see. You saw the uprising of the Tea Party. You saw the uprising in the voice of different patriots. What about Waco, Texas? All these things happen in that time period, year after year. Why? Because it sends a message of civil unrest. It sends a message of disunity. It sends a message of discord. You have patriots now who are willing to stand, so-called patriots, or in their minds, self-imposed patriots, self-proclaimed rather. They stand out in the front of protesters who are unarmed, just have a placard in their voice, and they stand there bearing down with their handguns and submachine weapons. And it's creating no fear. There's a very different time, a very different world, and all of us are intricately tied. And the one problem that has not been solved to alleviate the problems has been wealth, the transfers of wealth. Most of us have never heard Dr. King say what he said. He gave a whole treatise. Remember, it was 10 years after the creation of SCLC, and he talked about the progress of the so-called Negro and how limited it was. It was 5 years between the March on Washington and his assassination. And there was still an assault on manhood. And then Minister Farrakhan gave a timeline from the A. Philip Randolph, the Pullman movement, all the way up to the March on Washington, up to the anniversary on Washington, past the Million Man March and into 2010, and here we are in 2020, and we still have a plight of jobs and justice. We, in the world of Karabas, represent a whole new paradigm because we can supply the wealth, we can supply the value, restore the value of your labor, and restore the value of your legacy, and restore the value of your narrative, the power of defining yourself within your homes, under your roofs, right here, right now. That's the power in what we have. And so it won't require a lot of more dialogue. It's just what the Sister Damawi said, introspection. And so we're going to close out today, and we're going to do the best we can with our housekeeping rules and move it fast. You know, I go to Lakeisha McKnight, then I go to Brother Kansu, and then I'm on the Mighty Mighty Power Call. Dante Taylor's running it today. This is Tell the Truth. Tell the Truth Thursday, and I think we shared a lot of it here today. The future of money, on gold they rely. The revolution is digitized. Folks, we have the answer. That which you see in the middle of the two placards is a roll of paper, cotton, because it's more pliable. Thank you, Brother Wendell. That's what it's going to be used for in a few days. We have the ability to redirect the mindsets of a world so we can concentrate on focus on what's important. We are in that position. So let's go. All right. We have our program on the 11th of July, this Saturday, 4 p.m. Okay. We have Gold, a simple wealth building system. We're going to show you in that presentation the common bond between this message, and this message. We're talking about a new century of promise. Mr. Ty Best lays out the dream, and he lays it out giving his life, his backdrop, and shows you the posture that's necessary in order to navigate through the jungle of non-dreamers. And he shows you how to embrace the opportunity that we have with Carrot Bars. Dr. Seitz' first book was Future of Money, but he came back and gave us an exegesis of his life with Think Big. And he showed you why he works from the aspect of going toward honest people, putting wealth in the hands of millions of honest people. And then probably the most misunderstood man in this century in America is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, Torchlight of America. He put a book together that outlines not just the ills, but the solutions for all of them. And you'll find those solutions intertwined with this book and this book. And we're going to lay it out for you on Saturday, April 11th. I'm sorry, I said April. Look at me. I'm still thinking July 11th. Gold, a simple wealth building system. Please be in attendance. You know, it starts at 4 p.m. Okay. We must pay ourselves first. You know, those are the absolute rules. So if you have not done so, please, by all means, 1/10 of a gram today will do wonders for our future. 10:45 a.m. is the power call. You have Brother Dante Taylor in the house. Tell the Truth Thursday. We know whatever it's going to be, it's going to be truthful. 12 noon, we have our wealth building presentation. And again, at 9 o'clock, at 7:30 today, we have the 5 and 5 training with Mr. Al Murray, the coach of coaches, is in the house. At 9 p.m., we have the man, the myth, the living legend, Brother Gregory McKay, affectionately known as the Professor. Thank you for joining us this morning, Brother Gregory. And thank you for allowing me to be a part, my wife and I, to be a part of your show and proving to the world that Sister Falami does exist. Thank you so much. All right. So that show was known as Couples in Carrot Bars. It was really, really, it was fun. It was fun. And it was beautiful to hear my wife share how she tricked me. She finally confessed, y'all. She confessed on that show. It's an exclusive. You want to go back to Finest the Boss and find that presentation. Tonight on Kalfani Radio at 9 p.m. Eastern, Restoration of Body and Soul with Sister Denise Renee Muhammad. And that will take place on Kalfani Radio International Network, 9 p.m. Eastern. You don't want to miss. And be ready and get ready and stay ready for the celebration in honor of Mr. Ty Best and Mrs. Valerie Best that will take place on the 25th of July. That's Saturday, July 25th. Talent Appreciation Showcase and Poetic Runway, sponsored by Kalfani Radio International Network. And it will be a live online event, the virtual event rather. Registration for the event is $10, and you can go to kalfanievents.com for more information. So with that being said, I want to thank you for the honor, the privilege, the pleasure to share with you this morning. I hope you got something out of it. It's the beginning of the mind shift. It's the beginning of the reset. And with your permission, we'll explore those strategies tomorrow. We'll look more into what wealth building and wealth builders worldwide has in store via Carrot Bars International. And we'll show you how to put it in your home. What's that? Wealth. We'll show you how to build the economy in the safety and comfort of your own home, allowing you to take charge again. Peace and power. Forward, everybody.
Peace. Strong words. Love. Soul. And change. Yeah. This is Big Snoop Dogg. Coming at you live and direct. And I got something to say. You dig?
Let's change the world. Divided we fall, but united we stand. Let's change the world. No fights, no wars. Oh, let's learn to love again. Let's change the world. Let's change the world. Let's change the world. future.
Brother, what will you discover if we come together and do it like we never? I'm just sick and tired. I'm fit to light the fire. Now put this on the wire. The devil is a liar. I do this with no hesitation. Meet me at the reservation. Elevating, educating, meditating, concentrating. Replenisher, finisher, opposite of sinister. And I do it for the minister.
Let's change the world, divided we fall, united we stand. Let's change the world, no fights, no wars, oh, let's learn to love again. Let's change the world, let's change the world, let's change the world. Let's change the world, let's change the world, let's change the world. Let's make hope for the future.
Somebody need to stop the war. Man, the war ain't overseas, it's at your front door. And I done seen too many brothers shot up on the floor for more than drugs and some colors. And now you call us warlords. But if you can help it, then help it. But you ain't helping us. You so selfish and selfless, you wanna see us breathless and helpless. But I'ma hustle and tussle for all my brothers who struggle. Yeah, we bang the world. Now let's change the world.
Let's change the world, divided we fall, united we stand. Let's change the world, no fights, no wars, oh, let's learn to love again. Let's change the world, let's change the world, let's change the world. Let's change the world, let's change the world, let's change the world. Let's make hope for the future.
No killing, no shooting, no dying, no lying, no gang banging, so no more mamas crying. Everybody get along, man, that be the perfect song. Peace in the streets as I sit back on my phone, chilling with the president. He let me in the White House, back to the castle with the minister, no doubt. Shoes at the front door, love is what you come for. Let's get it right and unite, but do it
Let's
pronto.
change the world, divided we fall, but united we stand. Let's change the world, no fights, no wars, oh, let's learn to love again. Let's change the world, let's change the world, let's change the world. Let's change the world, let's change the world, let's change the world. Let's make hope for the future.